Welcome to this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Andy Lingfield. He is an entrepreneur, business leader, and singer. Welcome to the show, Andy.
Thank you, AJ. Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
You are welcome to the show. You are welcome to India in this online form, Andy.
Thank
And
you.
I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will want to understand, benefit from what you talk about. You talk about mastering the art of luck. So we'll understand in this backdrop first. Why do you put you are an entrepreneur, you've been business leader, singer. Why do you it all needs a lot of hard work, and and you talk a lot about luck. So help us understand, why do you talk so much about luck?
So that's an interesting question. I believe that actually good luck, a lot more of it is within our own control. So my experiences throughout my life, and including becoming a professional singer, came through a series of very, very good luck, which was brilliant. And when I thought about it and went back, there were so many things that I consciously or unconsciously did to create that good luck. So I realized there's much more that we can do to make ourselves luckier than we probably believe or realize at the time. So that led me to looking into how our brains operate and neuro linguistic programming, and really getting under the grips of positive psychology and what that really means. And grouping all those things together means I think you can learn to be luckier than probably sometimes we think.
Right, right. Let me understand you. About this particular thing called luck. Is luck pure, some divine intervention, or it goes side by side with hard work and many other things? What is your understanding on this?
So luck is a really interesting word because you're spot on. A lot of people think it's something that just happens. Yeah, you might be right by divine intervention or by being in the right place at the right time and coincidence and all of those things. And I think a lot of that is true. But I also believe a lot of it comes from within us. Now, that may be divine, it may be from spiritual guides, it may be from God, whatever you believe, or your higher self. But I think that's our intuition. I think that's where it comes through to us. And I think you can get better at learning to listen to your intuition and honing it to make sure you are listening to that inner knowing, if you like, that special voice that actually leads you in the right direction. And so part of my thinking and belief is that, exactly, listening to that. I don't know what it is. I would be arrogant if I said I did. Um, but I believe it's like my personal inner knowing, my personal inner power. Where that comes from, I'm not sure.
Okay, okay. If luck is part of intuition, how do we, how do we look at things like this that people used to use more? Nowadays, also they use, but less. How do you call something called when they say it was a fluke? And somebody will say, okay, it is luck. Luck generally comes into gambling, in lottery tickets. How does that work? Because that is also intuition into saying, a gambler will always say, this is my luck. They call beginners luck. You see, I've just started, and this is God showing that I will be a winner, and then to lose everything. It happens in stock market. It happens in all aspects of your life. People say, don't put all your eggs in the same basket. People who just believe in luck, they put all their eggs and everything else in just one basket and lose it all.
Yeah, you're spot on. Um, I would say that's bad luck. I'm definitely focusing on good luck. You're right about beginner's luck. I think the interesting bit is that if you unpick most people's good luck, there is a lot of hard work in there. Um, if I think back to my break into professional singing, I didn't just turn up that day and suddenly went, "Oh, I can sing." I'd been working on it for years. Now, I had that lucky break, and I do believe that it came through using networks and my intuition and listening to my inner voice and changing my beliefs. But if I haven't put the work in, it's not going to happen. Everybody has to take action. Things don't happen without us taking action. So gambling's an interesting one. So lucky, the word luck is definitely used a lot with gambling. I don't think that is luck in the way that I term it. I think that's taking a punt, taking a chance. And sometimes the flip of the coin will go in your favor and other times it won't. I think that's very different from unpicking those lucky breaks that people have and going back. So how did that happen? And what steps did they put in place to make that happen? And I remember reading in the dictionary about luck. It said having or bringing good fortune. And I think the word that is very exciting in that is bringing, because it almost implies that you can bring in your good luck. Does that answer that
Right.
question?
Yeah, you did. I'm just trying to understand, different ways general people look at these things, and just try to understand much more better than than just taking anything on face value, and
Yes.
just consider and rather look at it much more in a wider sense, and and look at it that way. It is like hard work. With lot of hard work, everything else happens in the backdrop, and suddenly, for example, if you put some money in the stock market, you have many years of understanding of it, and then there is one particular or two particular stocks that will do great for you. Some people might look at it as luck, but within your heart that you have worked so many years for it, you have lost so many, so many races to get to the right
Yeah.
one, but you understood the whole thing about the game, and then you came on. This is, I get. So that is why it is important to ask for the people, so that they understand. Like in one of the books, Shakespeare's books, in Macbeth, they say when Macbeth comes across the three witches, it is the first which said, you will be the Thane of Cawdor, and he that thing comes true. So he thinks, and some others also tell him, listen, his wife, that you see one which came true, so the second will also come true, the third will also come true, and then you will be the king of Scotland, perhaps. But it leads you to the wrong path, and it leads to destruction for all. Some
Mm.
people, who are a bit naive, who may not understand it that way, may understand luck in that same way. So how do you define things, that this is the right kind of intuition, this is the right kind of feeling that I am getting, and not the wrong kind of feelings. People who are doing bad things, they are also going with whatever they call as intuition or luck. They think this is the last robbery, and I will, afterward lead a peaceful life. It never happens. Many a times it happens. What happens to that? I just want to understand this last question on the bit of luck. Then we'll understand how one can master this art of, mastering the luck.
So if you're talking about how to hone your inner voice, I think it's through practice. And I think the best way, a lot of people meditate and they find it really helpful because it quietens their mind. But some people don't get on with meditation. Some people literally, they go, I can't do it. I don't believe that's true, but if that's their belief, that's fine. So there is a real power in just doing nothing, sitting down for 5 minutes a day and literally doing nothing. That means no phones, no TV, no talking, just nothing. And no purpose to it either. But what it does, it allows you to listen to that, what's going on up here. Um, it might not happen day one, but if you did it every day, 5 minutes, I'm sure we can all find 5 minutes to just do nothing and really try and do that. And then you start to train yourself to what is actually the true, authentic inner voice, not the nagging, annoying little voice that we also all have that tells us we're bad at this, bad at this, bad at this, but that true, quieter voice, the authentic one that tells us, that guides us, that gives us that, I need to cross the road here. That voice, if we can start to tap into that, and just 5 minutes a day, it really makes a massive difference, but it
Right.
is literally doing nothing. I mean, nothing. And the interesting bit for me is when I first started doing nothing, it's actually quite difficult. for 5 minutes feels like a really long time. So if it feels too long, do 1 minute and up it to 2 minutes and keep going because it does feel like a long time. Strangely, it shouldn't, but it kind of does. But it's really powerful.
Okay. Okay. So, Andy, you talk about the three foundations of luck. Help
Yes.
us understand that will that help me master my luck? How does that work? Or will that at least build me the
Yeah,
foundation of it, and then other things will come in between?
of course. I think there's one important thing to mention first before you do the foundations. You kind of need to know what you want to achieve. So before you start on the foundation, so if I could just briefly talk about that, I think there's everyone kind of might know what they want to achieve. What's their good luck look like? But actually, it's worth really getting specific on that to go, actually, this is what I want to achieve. This is the specific things I want to get out of it. I always think of it like you don't just go out and buy a car. You know specifically what color you want, what style, what this, what that. You don't just go, I want a car. So when you're designing what you want, make sure you're really specific about it. Everyone does that. That's easy. Then you ask the second question, why do I want it? Because if you ask why you want it, you're more likely to start training your unconscious to help you to get it because it really understands the emotion of what you're trying to achieve. Everyone kind of, a lot of people, not everybody, a lot of people brush past this bit, but it's so important because you could find out that actually it's not your ambition at all, it's your parents' ambition. You actually don't want it at all, really. So it's really important to find out your why and why you want it. And then the third question is how will you know you've got it? So when you look forward in whatever time frame you decide to pick, what will be different? What will look different in the future to now? So how will you specifically know you've got your dream? It could go on forever. So before you start on the foundations, I would suggest you ask those individual questions. So then the three foundations are quite basic when you break them down, but there's a lot of depth in them. The first foundation is called the playground of luck, and it literally means who you know, who can help you in your dream, who can help you towards your goal, and where are they, and who are they, and how do you connect with them. So it's all about who you have in your networks, if you like, that can help you towards it. But I think the critical bit here, and I think where a lot of people fall down, is I believe the playground of luck should be mutually beneficial. So it's not about just me getting something from someone else. It's about building a mutually beneficial relationship that works for both people. So I think that's really important. That's the first foundation. So utilizing the people around you, all your playgrounds, and people have vast networks of people if they sat down and thought about it. So that's number one. Number two, we've already touched on actually, is engaging your intuition. So it's literally how to listen to that inner voice to guide you to the right thing. And then the third one is called believing in the best. But this is really deep. This is about true belief. This isn't about somebody saying, oh, I believe I can be the best author in the world. They could say that. If they don't believe it underneath, it's unlikely to happen. So it's about changing those beliefs so they become positive and, and useful going forward. And that's the three foundations.
Right, right. Andy, you talk of it as the playground of luck. Who
Yes.
are the players here in this playground, and
It,
which side is luck on? Is it on my side? Is it another player? Is it the opposite player? How do you play? I want to understand this, because this is quite intriguing. How you can actually learn it like a skill. I want to understand it. You say it's a skill we can develop. So how can one get started with that beyond the 5 minutes of meditation?
Yes, of course. So the 5 minutes of doing nothing kind of falls into the second foundation. Really, it's the intuition part. The playground of luck is everyone. It could be family, could be friends, it could be work colleagues, it could be people you met doing a hobby. It could be literally anybody that is maybe connected to what you want to achieve. So if it's a business, it might be business contacts, but you need to look wider than that. It is networking, but I don't really like the word networking because it implies It's quite fake, actually, I
Right.
suppose.
Absolutely. I
Um,
agree with you.
so I think having a calling it the playground means that actually you go out there and you just connect with people, but you tell them what you want to achieve and you ask them, more importantly, what they want to achieve, because it may well be that you can help them in their dreams and ambitions, and you might find that that energy being sent out in the right way, helping others, will come back to you in a different guise, maybe 6 months, maybe a year later. Be nice to people, connect and try and help them, and try and do it in an authentic way which is not about just about you. That's
Right.
the meaning of a playground, because kids, the reason I chose the title playground is because kids play like that. They don't really have an agenda, they're just playing, but what they get out of it is massive. They get friends, they get connections. Some of those friendships last for a lifetime, which is beautiful. So it's networking, but not in the truest, not in the sense of pop along to every event and try and get jobs. it's it's real, authentic, understanding the other person. I think if you do it well, you should get the other person to talk about them. And if you get the other person to talk about themselves, that conversation will flow. If you show genuine interest in the other person, it's a brilliantly authentic conversation.
Right, right, Andy. You talk about, learning to be lucky and that it's a skill we can develop. As I asked you, is it beyond, are there other things beyond meditation that can one do to get luck, going for me, working in my favor? And where
Yes.
does luck sleep all these years till one day it wakes up and helps me do get to what I want? Is it somewhere else? Is it with me all the time?
I love that. That's a brilliant question. Where's it been sleeping all this time? I bet if you had a look at, if you had sat down and thought about it, I'll come to the other question in a minute because I just want to answer that one first because it's brilliant. Um, I think if you looked back on your life, you would find lots of times when you'd been lucky. It might only be small things. Um, Setting up this wonderful masterclass. Some would say that you have been lucky to do that. So there's loads of things that I bet if you look back on your life, you could say, oh my God, that was lucky. That was brilliant. That was lucky. That was lucky. So actually, we're all lucky a lot of the time because we're quite, as human beings, I think it's a bit of a design flaw, but I get why it's there. We tend to focus on the negatives. So because I think it's a protective thing from years ago when we were a bit more primal, that that was a protective mechanism. It was good to look for the negative because it protected us. We're not in that so much these days, so but we still tend to look for the negative. So all of those positives that we've experienced over our lives, we tend to brush under the carpet and just think they weren't good luck, but they were. But if we revisit them, what it starts to do is to prove that good luck is possible. And if your brain understands it's possible, it then will likely want more of it. So it replicates itself. It out your brain, your unconscious mind protects you throughout your life in good and bad ways from our perception, but from its perception, it's just protecting us. So if we teach it that actually it's been very lucky over many years, it will want more of that. So that's that part, excuse me. Second part is that a lot of our how we're structured as human beings is formed in our first 7 years pretty much. So a lot of the beliefs that we have trip us up. So if I come to the third foundation, which is about believing in the best, what you can do is you can retrain your mind to believe, to get rid of the beliefs that don't serve you anymore, are not useful, might have been useful when you were 5 but are no useful anymore, and retrain them to be more positive beliefs, and that will definitely help you to be luckier.
Right, right. Now let me understand this. But you talk about, luck opens doors that you never knew existed with the three foundations of luck. Which are these open doors? Because normally we think we know about most of these doors. Where do these doors come from suddenly? How do we know these are new doors? And help us understand this. This is quite interesting to understand. This is like
Okay.
a new lifeline itself. in life.
It is. It really is. And the brilliance really is you don't know what those doors are because they are unknown. But if I give you an example from my own life, so I always knew this is going back a bit of time now. So I'm not that young anymore. So a bit of time. And when I wanted to be a singer, I just wanted to be a singer. I didn't really know how that was going to happen. But what I realized I was doing is I was connecting with people that I worked with at the time, mutually beneficial. They were definitely mutually beneficial relationships. And I worked at a London newspaper at the time, and an advert came in for a TV show. Now, but because I knew the people who run the advertising in those sections, they told me about it. I would not have known that door would have been open to me just by telling somebody about my dreams and aspirations and listening to her dreams and aspirations. I didn't know that conversation was going to lead to a door opening for a national TV show to be. I went on as a singer. I didn't know that. That was a wonderful door that opened. So, by using the foundations, particularly the connection one through the playground of luck, and changing your beliefs that it could be possible, these doors just appear. They really do. It's almost like magic. You have to try it for yourself to go, oh, I see now. I'm doing these things. I'm putting these building blocks in place, and suddenly opportunities arise that you might not have foreseen. And actually, the brilliance of it is that I didn't plan that, but I did work for it. I did all of those things that you have to do, I believe, to create luck. And this isn't just me saying this. There's books written on the subject. There's a brilliant book by Richard Wiseman called The Luck Factor, which is well worth a read if you're interested in the subject of good luck, because it does talk about some of the things I'm talking about. It's a slightly different way. Mine's more practical, I think, but it's well evidenced.
Right, right. You say about luck and success often go hand in hand. Why is it that luck only surfaces when you succeed? Is it the perception people get, or is it is it that it opens doors? Luck opens doors while we are toiling, and then people only see the success part, or
Mm.
success part only through the prism of luck. How does one? But how do I look at it from my perspective? Should I look at it pure luck? Because nowadays a lot of people start suffering from imposter syndrome as soon as they get something in their lives. So
Yes.
that is another problem. People start running away from success because they are afraid of it. It is such a difficult thing nowadays. Why can't life be as simple as anything? And luck comes in as like as something very good, and people are ready to achieve or embrace whatever it gives with in the best way possible. Help us understand this tricky part. How do I explain people that luck was there, but it is my success only you see? Then you might consider that that I have been lucky, but it's actually a lot of hard work. Several things so interrelated here, that
Yes.
only an expert like you will be able to tell us the difference.
Yeah, I've kind of heard three questions in that. Um, so the imposter syndrome was one of them, which I understand. Recognizing luck, maybe just do those two. Is that okay?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
think that answered it. Um, so recognizing luck, I think the only way to do it is to kind of sit down and go, where have I been lucky in the past? I think I've just mentioned that. So the reason I think luck and success go hand in hand is because when I go, oh my life, I was so lucky when that happened and it led to this success, I do think that we do that a lot as human beings. We group the things together because I think they do go hand in hand, the same way that bad luck goes hand in hand with misery quite often. And so I think the two are inextricably linked in the human mind. I think you can have success with just a lot of hard work. But I bet you if you spoke to someone who was successful, they would pinpoint certain points in their life where they feel luck happened. And if you really dug beneath those, instances, you would go, actually, I did speak to that person. I did trust my inner voice and my intuition at the time, and I did believe that these things were going to happen for me. And I think you'll find that quite universally true. And I think if you even asked yourself about the bits that have really worked for you, there will be people involved. You very likely wouldn't have done it all by yourself. There'll be other people to help you. You would have gone, actually, I'm going to go down that route rather than that route because I feel that that route is more beneficial for me. And there would have been some core in you that knew it was going to work, so a belief. And so because those are the foundations, that's the bits you can teach. You can teach and learn how to be better at connecting with other people. You can teach and learn how to listen to the truth of you, and you can teach and learn how to change your beliefs. So because they all link back to all of our experiences of maybe minor bits of good luck, the principles then work whatever level you do it at, if you see what I mean. The imposter syndrome is really interesting, though. Um, I don't think there's one person who's been in a successful role who hasn't had imposter syndrome. I think that's part of the journey, really. If I think when I've worked in HR for many years as well, and I'm fairly senior in human resources. Most of the jobs I've started in, to start with, I've had a level of imposter syndrome as well because I think it's normal. You're walking into maybe a new organization or a new team. Your perception of what they think of you and your own perception of your own abilities and all of those things combined, I think it's very natural. I think the trick in it is to understand that that's natural and that's okay, and then work really hard to make sure actually you're not an imposter anymore in 3 months, 6 months time. You're the real deal. Now, the way I've always done it, and I'm not saying this is the best way, but it is, I can speak from personal experience, is to act as if. So I almost pretend that I'm the authentic article, and it becomes the truth in 3 to 6 months. And looking at if it's a new team you're going into and you're managing them and you are feeling that maybe there's better people in the team, great. That's brilliant. You want brilliant people in your team. In fact, for the teams I manage, I want them to be better than me because that means I can give them lots of opportunities to grow. They can develop. They can be in my job in a year's time. That's fine by me. So, and it's the right thing to do. So I think imposter syndrome is a very natural part of human life, and anyone who says they haven't had it is probably not telling the totally authentic truth.
Absolutely, absolutely, Andy. People say, that you got to be at the right place at the right time, and then you will achieve success. And that is, people say that you got to be lucky enough to be at the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
So it means, in the scheme of things, or in the grand scheme of things, when you become successful, it means there is an external factor which has put you into that into that design. Otherwise, so many people who are much better than one, or so many other people who are successful, they just get left out of it. Maybe you can call it bad luck, whatever, but I sincerely truly believe that there is something which is guiding all these things for whatever reasons, your past life karma, or whatever it is. Once people achieve success, once people get lucky enough to achieve power, money, whatever way they get it, what should they do with that, luck filled success? What is their mission? What should be their mission then? Should they look at it, go back to go to some beach, enjoy their riches? What should they do with that?
That's it. I don't think I could answer that on behalf of millions of people. Um, I think people will react very differently. Some people will. Money is an interesting one. I'll come back to that because I don't think anyone wants money. Actually, I'm going to challenge anyone to say they want money. They don't want money. They want what money can give them. So it might be they want the house, they want the beach holiday, they want whatever. They want to be able to help their family, blah blah. So it's never money. It's interesting. They might want the interest that money comes from in the bank, but anyway, um, I think if they're a good person, they would share the love and the luck. But it depends on the human. It just depends on the human, really. Um, some humans will not do that. They will not do it. They will keep it all for themselves and they won't share. But they're not the humans that I would like to be surrounded by. I'd rather be with humans that do share and give no matter what they've got, actually. And a friendly word and a helpful guidance, and this comes back to the playground of luck. Giving that away doesn't has no detriment to you as an individual. It's a beautiful gift. And I'm a bit older now, and if people hadn't done that to me, I wouldn't be where I am now. So I want to say thank you to those people that did it for me, and maybe I'm in a position now where I can do it back. And that's the way it should be, I think. But that's Andy speaking. That's not necessarily the world.
Right. So, through the three foundations of success, can I still master the art of keeping luck permanently on my side, or is it going to only be there for some time and then go to someone else?
You mean popping it out? I don't think it goes to somebody else. I do think that as we go through life, we want different things at different times. So I kind of think you have to start again and put those foundations in again, because your beliefs or my beliefs or anyone's beliefs about a certain circumstance would have worked for, in my case, to being a singer, would be different beliefs for becoming a head of HR, different beliefs to becoming a course creator. My underpinning, probably limiting beliefs about my own abilities and my fears would be different in those three spaces, massively different. There might be some core things which are similar. So I need to do that work again each time. The listening to your inner voice is probably okay because you've kind of tapped into it already, but the playground of luck will be different. The networks that I need to tap into and build mutually beneficial relationships to be a singer will be very different to being a course creator. There may be some crossover, but they are different. So I do have to kind of do them again. So if I don't think it's luck coming in and out. I think it's how much effort and work I'm doing on those foundations. Will it work again? Will it work again? Will it work again? That's my belief. I think I have to put in the work and then I will reap the results. And I don't know. So we're having this conversation now. We've connected through a string of coincidences, you might say. I don't know where this will lead you or me, but that's brilliant. I don't know if someone watching this will think, oh, I want to connect with AJ now because of something which will lead you to better luck. That's brilliant because we are now in each other's playground of luck, which is awesome. But we don't know where it's going to go. We don't know where those doors are going to magically open. And I love that. I think that's so exciting. That's what makes life brilliant, I think. Did that answer that
Absolutely.
question? I'm not sure. I went off
Yes,
on a bit of
yes,
a
yes,
tangent, I
indeed,
think.
indeed, indeed, indeed. In your CC, uh, there might be people who, today there might be some people, tomorrow there might be many people, less people, and and 2 years down the line, there might be just one person who might listen to something that you said and might, change his or her life. You never know, and this only starts with a beginning somewhere that we started exchanging, emails about this particular meeting. I guess this is
Yes.
what they mean by the grand design of things. Grand design, and God is the greatest designer. We design things in our small little way to add to the grand design of things. I guess that is what makes this, as the sun, like we rotate and revolve at the same time. Maybe luck and success, they just move around like the same way in our life. There is so much to understand about luck and success and mindset, Andy. And I'm sure this is just one podcast. A lot of people who want to connect directly with you and understand about these things, and also, engage with you professionally if that is possible. So, what is the best way for them to connect with you?
So the best way is probably through I'm on Facebook. There's a Learn to Be Lucky page, or you can contact me through my Facebook page, which is Andy Lingfield. That's probably the best way. And then we can talk about whatever you'd like to talk about. I'm fascinated by how human beings operate and how our brains work. So that will be exciting for me. I'd love it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
No problem. Thank you ever so much, AJ. Take care.
You too.